This week we're going to explore the heart-lung connection. And, it's the cardiovascular system. It's so fundamentally important and major driver of life. It's really interesting we'll be exploring a concept called coherence, which the heart math people are that's one of their main focuses, and was discovered by some people, I can't remember their names, in the 70s, not the heart math people first, but essentially it means that the rhythms of the heart and the lungs and nervous system, that everything is moving in harmony. And when it is moving in harmony, there's a sense of well-being and optimal level of functioning. And you can approach it in different ways, and it's often described as breathe it through the perspective of the breath. You breathe for about 5.5 seconds in one direction to breathe in, and then about 5.5 seconds to breathe out. This regular rhythmic cycle has been shown to assist you to bring about this state of coherence. And it's a really interesting thing in that when you're doing Gregorian chanting, or if you're doing Hindu chanting, the phrases tend to follow that length. So your breath goes in this even cycle of about 5.5 to 6 seconds in each direction. So we're going to do that today and look at it in terms of moving, because if you can move in that with that same sort of sense of stillness, or everything moving together, it feels absolutely lovely. And maybe if I share my screen, I'll show you some pictures here. I mean, the heart and lungs are just remarkable structures. All through our body we have the circulation system reaches every cell. And that in itself is just so inspiring. It's the cell. There's something amazing I learned about the cell. In fact, I'll stop my screen share for a moment. The cell itself is staggering. They're tiny. They're varying in size. There's a nerve cell, for instance, in our body that's 1 meter long, and an egg yolk is a single cell. But most of the cells in our body are absolutely tiny, and about 0.003 of a millimeter. And the nucleus in a cell is 1,000th of a millimeter. Now think of a centimeter and think of the 10 little divisions in a centimeter. That's 1 millimeter. And then think of dividing that millimeter into 1,000th. And then that's the size of the nucleus. And it's interesting, in the cell, I think there's something like 40 million different types of proteins. It's just this hive of activity that's creating that's creating all the energy that we need, and all the structures that we need in order to keep the bone, to keep our body, to maintain our body. And inside the nucleus, we have the complete record, the complete template for our body, our DNA, the 46 chromosomes. So a complete copy of a map of how to build our body, as well as the specialized functions of those particular cells, whether they're a neuron or a cell in your cheek or in your gut. They all have these specific functions. But the thing is, it's so densely packed in there. They're really large. If you take the chromosomes and you cut them out and you lay them end to end, it's 2 meters long. 2 meters long. And that's in something that's a thousandth of a millimeter. I mean, it's really hard to get my head around it. There's lots of articles about it on the web that describe it as twisting a string, and it starts to twist in little curls. And if you keep on doing it, it sort of packs in on itself. Well, these are little protein structures or enzymes that can actually just, they fit with a, absolutely precision, and they fold up and they turn into these three-dimensional structures. But that means, because there's 39 trillion cells in cells in our body, that if you take all of the cells in the body and stretch them end to end, it's 78 billion kilometers long. 78 billion kilometers long. That's like twice the diameter of the solar system. It's absolutely staggering that we have that, and inside the cell, there's all these little compartments, and there's all this stuff going on. Some things have an electrical positive charge, some are negative, and there's all these things that are going on. So it's, you get down to this microscopic level, and it's at molecular level, and it's space. And our blood, is supplying every cell in the body. So it's going through this incredible journey. So I'll share my screen again. So, we have this, breath comes down in here and the blood's coming out. So it's you have these constant, you have the blood's flowing through the arteries, and then the arterioles, and then into the capillary network, and you have these areas of the body that have a large mass of capillaries, like the heart and lungs, because there's so much work going on there, because that's where the oxygen and carbon dioxide is exchanged. And in the brain and the liver and different organs will have this concentration of capillaries. So the heart is pumping at about 60, 70 beats a minute, this heart, the blood through the body down into the capillary network, where it slows down, and then it comes out, and then a larger proportion of the blood is kept in the venous system, coming back to the heart. It's storing the blood there. So it's these tiny little tubes that we end up in, the alveoli, to progressively smaller tubes, till eventually the tube is just 0.003 of a millimeter across. It's just large enough for one red blood cell to move through. And it comes into these little clusters here, these alveoli. And it's at this point that you have these permeable membranes where the red blood cells and carbon dioxide can perfuse through there. Thank you, Libby, for reminding me of that term. Exchange in the oxygen in the blood supply, and then continue this amazing journey right through the whole of our body. And it connects. We saw last week, in those little GIFs I was showing you, of when the heart is beating. It's quite a big movement, and it's actually moving all these structures, all the blood vessels and all the tubes inside the lungs. So this is the right lung. There's the vena cava here, and this is the pulmonary artery that sends the blood out to the lungs. But where it actually joins into the lungs, it's called the ileum. So you have this connection of tubes. So it looks like a solid mass, but it's actually just this collection of tubes that get progressively smaller and smaller. And it's, of course, divided up into segments. So it's the rhythm of it that's really interesting. The rhythm of the two things is controlled Where are we? Oops. By this area here in the carotid artery, the carotid artery up in here, and also the aorta. These little chemoreceptors, and baroreceptors, these things that structures that measure the level of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the blood, and then send signals up into the brain, up into the lower brain down here, the pons and medulla, about how much oxygen we need. So, if we start to run faster, it registers here and here, and then it sends a signal here, and then so it makes the heart, sends a signal down to make the heart work harder. Or if we're feeling distressed. And really, it's the entire body that's influenced by this. If we look at the autonomic nervous system, it's divided up into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic branches of this, and the sympathetic tends to speed things up and the parasympathetic tends to calm things down. And so, this will speed up the heart, it'll dilate the bronchioles so that, it's easier for blood, and it'll secrete adrenaline from the kidneys and decrease secretions in the stomach, so you stop digesting your food. It, stops you being able to clear out the colon or the bladder. And whereas the parasympathetic, it's the opposite. It constricts the bronchioles so it can slow the blood down, slows down the heartbeat, increases the digestive juices. So the thing is, what I'm getting at is that the whole body here, the whole gut, has this influence on how we feel and on how the heart and lungs actually function. And so to control our the breathing, to slow our breath down, or to get into a calm state, it's a matter of just relaxing yourself, calming yourself. And where do we need this? Well, when we're performing at a high level, for instance, we look at these speed skaters. Now here's somewhere where you need precision and you need rhythm. Traveling at a tremendous speed in this really regular, even pattern. There's no wasted effort. And there's this complete focus when you're performing at that level. This is one of the all-time greats, Sven Kramer, a Dutchman. But it's interesting, look at the precision with which the blades come down and touch the ice. And, the organization of his head, neck and torso. Tom, really looks like he's flying through here. This is floating and he's reaching out ever so delicately for the ground. And his whole body adjusts with each transition of his weight. And that economy of movement and the regular rhythm that he has. Same guy from different perspectives. So, to maintain this sort of flow and to develop this speed, you train yourself in order to maintain this rhythm and to fit into this rhythm, so that you don't have to think about it. It's like they talk about a golf swing. You have to practice that till it just becomes this automatic, almost machine-like thing that you're not controlling directly. You're allowing it to happen. And then, by the way you think and where you focus, where it will go. But, consider doing this. I mean, you don't want to have a nasty thought, do you? Just before you jump off there. Or just when you're about to land, to suddenly have a panicky thought and do a small twitchy movement. It's going to be catastrophic, isn't it? So it's this ability, it's so many areas where we benefit enormously from being able to focus in this way. And you can train yourself into it. Now I sent a the sense of lingering in the stillness here. and allowing everything to flow, to trusting the trajectory that you've already taken. That's central to what we're going to be doing today. You know, to finding that line and just staying with it. So in order to slow ourselves down, it's, you know, it's something you focus on. But the thing is that it's variable, and the variability of our heart rate, you know, like you really have to train yourself to actually move there. There is this constant regulation of the heart. I think I read somewhere that if you cut the heart out, you know, away from the brain, because it's still got its intrinsic nervous system in the top of the heart that can actually, you know, enable it to still keep firing. And if it's left to its own devices, it beats at about 100 beats a minute. But the normal heartbeat for people is, you know, between 60 and 70. And of course, it's wide variation on either side of that, which means that our normal heart rate is regulated by the immune, by the whole system, by the, you know, different aspects of the body. So there is this variability, and the variability of our heart, the fact that it changes in the same way our breath does, you know, as I've changed the emphasis of the way I'm speaking now, the pattern of my breathing changes. You know, it shifts the quality of the voice, and it's the same thing with the heart rate. So if the heart rate continues moving freely, you know, it can vary. It's a sign of good health. It's when it gets stuck, you know, either it's very hard or very low, that, you know, we often have problems. So training yourself to look or to see something and to follow a particular rhythm, like that GIF I sent you in the email, is a really useful thing to do. So this one here, you notice there are red circles that are moving in this direction. There's some that are moving over here, and others are moving there. And, you know, it's about 6 seconds to follow one of these red dots from when it's big to when it's small. And then when you breathe in, you could shift over to another one going in another direction and, you know, follow it around here. And then shift over here, and you can move around via these structures here. Just try it for a moment. Watch the process of how you settle yourself into being able to slow your breath. So as you're following one of these red dots, breathe out. And then when you need to breathe in, flip over to one of these other things, moving in another direction. And then when you breathe out again, move over. And in your own time, find what is a good rhythm for you to follow the red dots. Now there's a process that we go through. Let's turn that off. There's a process that we go through in order to learn to do this, or in order to settle ourselves. Now, as you look at this, that's a, you know, this images are sort of moving around in a circle. But if you just look at the center of that circle and breathe slowly, you may find that they start change direction. They start moving around in the other direction as you breathe in or as you breathe out. So you have to calm yourself down to do that. And there is a process to calming yourself down. Just try it for a while. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Um, there's other ones you can see where there are dots just sort of randomly moving around, and then you watch them. And if you just look online and Google heart coherence, you can see it. And the heart math people have got some fabulous apps and a program you can buy that, where you can plug in a sensor and connect it to your ear and you can follow it. And, I'll talk more about that as the weeks go on. Um, but how do you actually learn to put an ice skate down onto the ice that delicately? With it, you don't create any friction. That every time you put it down, it's just an absolute seamless continuation of your momentum. And so how do you move in such a way that there's no interruption? You can get to maximum speed and continue going with the flow of it. It's a really interesting thing because the very nature of our heart and lungs is that they're all over the place. They're responding to our thoughts and our feelings and the sense we have. We get this variation. And as I mentioned, that's a sign of our health and vitality because, you may be skiing down a hill and then suddenly the snow changes its quality and you have to adapt to what you're doing. You can still maintain that ease of rhythm, but probably your heart rate will increase. But the overall harmony of what you're doing is the thing that will change. So we're going to be doing some movements today whilst we're tuning into the rhythm of our breath, and we're going to be trying to make our breath at about 5.5 seconds long, but we're going to be counting our heartbeats rather than counting seconds. And if the average heartbeat is 73 beats a minute, which would be about 11 or 12 heartbeats. It depends on how fast your heart is going. And some of you may have low heart rates. You may be really fit, like elite athletes. They'll have a resting heart rate of 55, or I've worked with two and they had resting heart rates of 55. The fitness will do that. So whatever your heart rhythm is, you just go with it. What seems like you could count it if you're not sure, just count about 5 seconds. And it may be that to breathe out and breathe in continuously for 5 seconds is too hard, in which case you might need to do 3 seconds. But as you relax yourself, you'll find it will slowly ease down and, it becomes easier to get into this rhythm. And what we're really trying to do, the focus with this one, is to follow this perfect movement. The beating of our heart and the movement of our breath, we don't have to do anything. And when we really do leave it alone, we're like Olympic athletes, like those skaters, in that everything, the whole body is involved and everything functions. So if we can really just listen to those movements and follow it, to listen for, the quality of the movement and allow them move the simple movements. Well, we're going to roll up to sit at the end if that's possible, or onto your side, which is more complicated. But, how can you move with that same quality through there? And where you feel it is in the transition between breathing in and breathing out. That's the good bit. Because when you come to that, that movement is absolutely seamless. But to try to actually move in one direction and move back so that the whole body functions as a unit, that's a really challenging thing. That's the sort of thing people train and train and train to do. Dancers and surfboard manufacturers who have to be so accurate on each side of the board when they plane it. So the opportunity is to really tune in to the change between inhalation and exhalation and inhalation. And my experience of it is, I eventually get calm, and it's a bit like, it comes to that point and the breath moves out to a certain degree, and then it comes to stillness and it moves back. But it's all at the same pace. and it slows down and comes to stop and then speeds up again slowly, but mostly it's moving out and moving in at the same pace. And it's feeling that, tuning into it. And we'll move, there's like you're breathing out for, say 10 or 11 or 12 heartbeats. And then in between the heartbeats, that's when you'll move back and start going in the other direction, because there's that process where you're moving and you come down to stop, and then you come back in the other direction. So that's a perfect place to do that, is between the heartbeats, so that when the first heartbeat comes that's driving the heart, you're already moving. And that's the thing, when the skater puts their skate down on the ice like they're already in the movement. So you have to be really patient with this. You cannot force it. So you don't have to be able to do it. It's really important that you let your heart go all over the place and you're breathing and not worry about it. Just go with whatever is happening and try to move with it and just observe the process. And it's the loveliest feeling. And even if you don't get it, it won't matter. But probably at some stage you'll have that experience of feeling that transition between in and out or out and in seamlessly and moving with it. And it's the loveliest feeling. It's like those days when everything just goes right, it's all just flowing. That's what we're training for with this. So, could you lie down on your back and let's explore this. So lie here on your back and listen to the sound of your heart. Or the feeling of your heart beating. Through your whole body. Sense right around your rib cage. And see if you can feel that pulsing. And consider its role in spinning the blood through the whole vascular system, out to every cell in your body and back again. And as it's beating, it's moving your lungs. That are moving themselves as you breathe. Now sense the rhythm of your breath. the length of your inhalation and your exhalation. And how your breathing and your heart rate vary depending on what you're thinking and feeling. And of course, to feel the heart beating and the way the lungs are moving, it's useful to relax yourself. So you have nothing to do but breathe. So notice that process as you begin to relax, say in your shoulders or behind your eyes. How that influences your ability to feel the rhythm of your heart and your breath. And now, could you place your hands down on your femoral arteries? So it's down in the pelvis there, between the front of the bony wing of the pelvis and the pubic bone. So, move between the pubic bone and the bony wing there. And maybe helpful if you have, you put your fingers in your pockets if you're wearing trousers, heavy trousers, or pull your shirt out a little bit and feel slowly between the pubic bone and the front of the pelvis there, over the front of the pelvis, and just listen with your fingers, with your fingertips as if they're ears, to find the pulse down there in the groin. Notice if you're having trouble finding it, are you speeding your breath up? Or, what that's doing to the sense of your heartbeat. Well, soften yourself, relax yourself. And when you find that pulse, it's quite definite, a definite rhythm there. Just leave your fingers there and listen to your pulse. Keep softening in your hands and your shoulders, in your neck, and your legs. So that it's easier to feel the pulse. And if you lose it, don't worry, just keep coming back and finding it. Slowly, as if your fingertips were ears, you're listening for that sound. And the sound is a reflection of your heart beating. So that same pulsing that you're feeling now in your pelvis, feel it in your chest. Sound of your heart flowing through your bloodstream and resonating in your chest and through all the structures in your body. Right up to your inner ears. Just behind the soft palate there, the eustachian tubes that go right out to the eardrums. And your full length from your head right down to your feet. And you're holding the femoral arteries here, probably right in the middle of your body. Notice the sound of the pulse in the pelvis. How does the vibration, the pulsation of the pulse here, how is that reflected through all the structures in your pelvis? And notice the rhythm of your pulse. And the rhythm of your breath. And begin to count how many heartbeats there are, how many pulses there are as you breathe in. And as you breathe out. And just pay attention to your natural rhythm. And whatever you're doing is fine. So we're going to slow things down a little now. So extend your heart rate or your amount of time that you breathe out. And maybe for 10 or 12 heartbeats. So it's going to take about 5.5 seconds to breathe out. And then 5.5 seconds to breathe in. So if your normal heart rate is about 73 beats a minute, that means you'll be doing about 12 or 10 to 12 heartbeats as you breathe out and then as you breathe in. But it may be slightly different, and if you make it within your comfortable range and really pay attention to relaxing through the whole body. softening the hands and the arms. Softening in your ribs so that your rib cage is free to move as you breathe. It can move in all directions, just like the ringing of your heart. And maybe as you soften more through your chest and face, as you feel your pelvis and legs relax, becomes easier to sense your breath from the inside. To feel it flowing effortlessly within the tubes, through the throat into the center of the chest and out, right through to that point where it exchanges oxygen and carbon dioxide. And to feel your heart pumping blood through the inside of the blood vessels. To sense that life-giving fluid in the heart, in the vessels. And the blood is flowing round in one direction over a vast network of vessels. It's going in one direction. Whereas the lungs are moving in two. They're, going in and out. Sense how they can work together. So as you're counting the heartbeats here, when you get to that point where your breath is going to change in between the heartbeats. Maybe you can feel that stillness in between the heartbeats. So change direction as in the stillness between the heartbeats. Now leave that. Let your arms down. Just rest there for a moment. And feel the pulse of your heart and circulation system and the rhythm of your breath through the entire length of your body, from your head to your feet. Now once again, place your fingertips on the femoral arteries there, down in the groin. Find your pulse peacefully. And begin counting your heartbeats, whatever is comfortable for you, but probably the norm would be about 12 heartbeats as you breathe in and 12 as you breathe out, or 10. And now as you breathe out, could you move your head over to one side? And then as you breathe in, bring your head back to the middle. And then when you breathe out, move your head over to the other side. And back. And go side to side, lengthening your exhalation, so it's around 5.5 seconds or 10 to 12 heartbeats, maybe less if your heart goes slower, or more if your heart goes faster. And seeing if you can move your head and neck with the same precision that your breath flows and your heart and blood flow. And change direction in between heartbeats. Make the movement tiny and simple, because that precision we find, that ability to move seamlessly with our heart and lungs, comes when everything is quiet. And leave that now. Let your arms down by your side and rest there. So your heart and lungs have probably already slowed down. Your heart rate is more peaceful. Notice the difference. Your capacity to feel the ringing of your heart, the beating of your heart right around the rib cage, in the back of the rib cage, and through the whole body. And to sense your legs as you're breathing in or breathing out, and that sense that the breath via the oxygen is going right down to your extremities. And now, could you place your hands on your carotid arteries, so the sides of the neck? Feel feel the base of your skull, just behind the ears there, then go down the sides of your neck. And in the front, in front of the spine there, just behind the jaw and the larynx, listen and feel the beating of your heart. In the carotid artery. So this is flowing up toward your brain and into your face. From here it branches off and goes in alongside the front of the spine and up into the skull case, and matches with another one that appears from lower down just out of the aorta, goes up the front of the spine, then round to the back, and joins up inside the skull, around the brain. Consider from here the blood flowing up right inside the brain, this exquisite flow to every cell. And it's flowing out into your arms. See, there's that pulsing in your fingertips as well as on the carotid arteries. And from the beating of the heart, which you can probably feel through your arms if they're resting on your chest, right down into the middle of your body at your pelvis, and maybe you can remember the feeling, or even feel now the beating of your pulse in the femoral artery in your pelvis. And going all the way down to your feet. Now, once again, on an exhalation, could you move your feet this time to the side? As you breathe out from 5.5 seconds or 10 or 12 heartbeats, and then as you breathe in, the feet come back to the middle. And then over to the other side. Following the rhythm of your breath, go side to side in this way. And it's quite nice because as your legs are rotating, you can probably feel the back of your legs and the back of the pelvis, the buttocks, moving on the floor. seamlessly moving with your breath and blood. Changing direction between heartbeats. And feeling the full length of your body. And maybe the next time you breathe out, you could move your head with your legs as well. And then leave that. Let your arms down by your side and rest there. You know, it's a progressive thing. You know, the ability to soften through the back of the rib cage, and the bones in your skull, your lower back and neck, and your belly. And now could you roll over onto your side and come up to sit? Come up to sit in it, whichever way is comfortable. And just notice how it feels to sit here. Feeling of your heart beating, ringing right around your chest. And once again, could you place your fingers on your carotid arteries? Either side of the neck there, behind your jaw, and just consider right up to the crown of your head, and to your eyes, your nose and your mouth. And consider the blood going to every cell in your head and neck, every structure. The delicate balance of your skull on top of the spine. How far away is that joint with the skull and your neck? You could feel it with your fingers if you like, just to get a sense of it. And then come back, and once you've done that and feel the carotid pulse again, and sense from your head and neck down into the rib cage, effortlessly moving as you're breathing. And right down to the roundness of your pelvis and legs. And the next time you breathe out, could you turn your head over to one side, an effortless distance, and then come back as you breathe in. And then over to the other side, about 10 to 12 heartbeats or 5.5 seconds in each direction. And how now that you're sitting up, how your upper body can rotate freely, how your torso, the whole spine can twist. Right down to the pelvis and legs. And the more of yourself you can relax, the easier it becomes to follow this seamless rhythm of your heart and lungs. It's as if they're moving you. The beating of your heart right through your body, driving the movement. The movement of your rib cage in every direction as you breathe in and out. Leave that. Let your arms down by your side or wherever they're comfortable. And now could you feel the right pulse on the pulse on your right hand, on the thumb side, near the radius bone. With your left hand, you're feeling the pulse on your right hand. Take your time to find it. And once you have your pulse, lift your arm up and move it out to the side as you breathe out. Back to the center as you breathe in. And just allow your arm to be moved by the rhythm of your breath and heart. Pause whenever you need to find the pulse again. And can you place your the back of the left wrist down on the floor as you move out on the left side? It means you need to lean over a little bit over to the left. Pause there for a while you breathe in. And then on the exhalation, move back into the middle again. And then back out to the side. Quietly so that you can feel the movement of your heart and lungs. And that you can follow that rhythm, 5.5 seconds or 10 or 12 heartbeats in either direction. You could put your elbow down on the ground, left elbow on the ground. And when you come back, it's with your breath, the change of direction of your breath, and feel your pelvis roll first, maybe. And if you lean forward, you may even find you can come across, you could put your right elbow down onto the ground on the other side. And go side to side. Pausing whenever you need to regain the sense of the pulse. Moving with your breath and go side to side. And it's the absorption into the sensations of your pulse and breath. Movement is like a byproduct of that. And the next time you have your elbow on the left, you can continue and lie back down on your back again, sensing how your heart and your lungs move your breath. Even. And rest here. And now take your right hand and place it on your carotid artery. On the side of your neck. And your left hand, take your left hand and place it on the base of your skull. The top of the neck. So you get a sense of the full length of the spine. The crown of your head and the soles of your feet. And come back to your breath and the pulse in the carotid artery here. And absorb yourself in the sensations of your breath and pulse. Relaxing yourself to slow everything down to 5.5 seconds in each direction, or 10 or 12 beats. And now we're going to roll to the side, to your left. The whole body moving with your breath. And, go at your own pace. So you move over to the side for, as you exhale. You could pause there and breathe in for 10 to 12 beats and then move back on the exhalation onto your back. And in your own time, going over to the side, absorbing yourself in the sensations of your breath. The breath and the beating of your heart as the drivers of the movement, the template of the movement. And maybe let your left arm down, out at shoulder height. And just roll onto this side. In a way that gives you the space inside the rib cage and the pelvis for your heart and lungs to function freely. And for blood to flow effortlessly. And the next time that you get onto your left side, stay there, just listening to your breath and your pulse. Counting those 10 or 12 beats or however many you're counting. Feeling the space between the heartbeats is the time when you change direction to breathe. And then the next time you breathe out, sort of roll or move your right shoulder forward. So you move forward and you can lift your head so over the left elbow. And then come back down. And breathe in. You could do it so you breathe out every time you move and you come back as you breathe in. From the side up onto the elbow. Absorbing yourself into the sensations of your breath and your heart. Just pausing and getting the heartbeat back again if you lose the pulse. And sensing it through your whole body. And you could even go further if it was easier. You could lift yourself up to sitting. Pause there as you breathe in, and then as you breathe out, come back down to your elbow. You could pause to breathe in here. And then on the exhalation, moving down. So go at your own time. As it becomes easier to absorb yourself in the sensations of the breath, to move with that same quality, you may find you could move further. You could move right up to your elbow in one sequence of, one out breath, or up to sit. And as you relax more, that will certainly happen. But, go slowly at your own pace. You don't have to go up. The main thing is just moving with your breath and heart. And changing direction as your breath and heart change. In fact, rest for a moment. Leave that. Come back and lie down on your back. And as you observe your breath moving in and out at about 5.5 seconds, 10 to 12 heartbeats in each direction, maybe you can feel it without holding onto your pulse. Can you imagine yourself rolling over to the right and up to sit with that same seamless quality as your breath. To move away from or to settle into the floor, and with that same effortless quality of your breath changing from in to out. And now try it, rolling over to the right. You could hold your carotid artery if you wish, or you could just listen or feel the pulsing within your body. Count the heartbeats. Moving with the seamless flow of your breath. And then leave that when you finish the one you're doing, and lie down on your back and just rest here. The effortless flow of your breath and bloodstream. How is it now compared to when we first began? Now, when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. and noticing the flow of your breath and the beating of your heart, roll onto your side and come up to stand. And take as much time as you need, and when you do come up to stand, just be there and sense this rhythm. Five to 6 seconds in each direction with your breath and your heart in harmony. And as you walk, sense how that gentle rhythm flows through your whole body.